Okay, welcome to Grief Chat with myself, Mark Lemon. For today's episode, I'm delighted to be speaking with Let's Talk About Loss ambassadors, Callum Flanagan and Liam Butcher. Welcome, guys.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time out to speak with me today for the Good Grief Festival. First, for the viewers, would you be able to just introduce yourselves and maybe give the viewers a bit of background about your own experience with grief, please? And I'll come to you first, Liam.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Liam. 29 years old. I lost my best friend, Matt, to cancer just over 3 years ago when he was 25. I joined as a host with Let's Talk About Loss about 18 months after that. Grief was, say, a journey. That's a bit of a cliche, but it certainly was that, with no destination really in sight. I'll say it changed a lot over time. And as time went on, I realised that I wasn't getting the support that I needed. I didn't realise I needed the support that I needed. It takes a little while to actually kind of come to terms where you're at with your grief and realise what you actually need. And for me, Let's Talk About Loss was the ideal opportunity for me to find an outlet for my grief, certainly, and offer something to others going through something similar. It felt, being a host, felt the perfect fit for me at that time. I felt like I had a lot to give, and it was a great chance for me to put my energy into something else other than just the rest of my life and work and everything else. I needed something else that I could put my time into, my thoughts into. And it's been a game changer, to be honest. I've met some amazing people, had some conversations that I didn't know I needed, and found this fantastic support group that is doing amazing work for people all over the country. So that's been my journey so far. It's ever changing. It's never the same. No 2 days are the same. But I've learned to live with it, I guess, and accept it for what it is, the good and the bad. Yeah, that's where we are today.
Okay, thank you for that. And how about you, Callum?
Well, I'm Callum. I'm 24. I lost my mum to cancer when I was 16. So like I went out around that time, like I didn't really like get any support. I was, very like, I have to be a man and like, not show people around me that I'm struggling. Everyone around me is like, worried about their own thing, or like, I had to be strong for my dad and my brother, etc. And it wasn't until, like the latter stages of university that I was like, this is something that like I want to explore more. Like my friends are still kind of weird about me be talking about my mum. So when I heard about Let's Talk About Loss, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. People will be happy for me to talk about like funny things that she done and it not have to be sad. So yeah, I've heard through actually a friend of mine who's another host, through her, that they were setting up the Glasgow meetup. So I joined the first one, and then after that I was like, oh, I want to be a host and help with the organization and stuff. And it's been really good.
It's an incredible organization, isn't it, for young people? I was wondering whether maybe one of you could just talk me through what your meetups are like and what sort of things happen when you're together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, they're different every time, really. That's the beauty of it. They're never the same. They're very informal and casual as well, which kind of makes us a bit unique, I'd guess, in terms of, sort of similar support groups are quite structured, and they're kind of, you're there for one reason, and then you talk about your grief, and that's what it's there for. With us, it's not quite like that. We give a safe space for people to talk. There's no obligation to or expectation. Sometimes we've had meetups where it doesn't come up. We actually don't talk about it at all. But just being in the company of others that have gone through and are going through something similar to yourself is an amazing thing, and it's very comforting. So there's no expectation, no real structure. It's very casual. We're here to make friends and meet like-minded people, have a bit of fun, do an activity, and to switch off from the rest of the world, really. And that's what we do. That's what we are.
No, it sounds amazing. And I know you're both really passionate about sort of trying to break that stigma, and so am I, to be fair, around men talking about their feelings, men talking about their grief. just letting them know that it's okay to kind of to talk about how you're feeling. I know, Callum, you mentioned about your friends and how, you know, a lot of them might be feeling, well, he should have moved on now, shouldn't he? But he's still talking about his mum, and, you know, and I think a lot, you know, in terms of my podcast and me just talking about my story, I'm sure a lot of people are the same with me. But like you guys, I'm very passionate about letting young people know that it's all right to just keep talking about this subject and sharing your feelings. And I just wonder, you know, why you think this is so passionate, and perhaps also why you think there is still that stigma. And that's to you, Liam.
Yeah, certainly. So there's definitely a stigma. There's no doubt about that. I really believe it comes from the way men are brought up when they're children. At early years, it's drilled into us that men have to be strong, got to put a brave face on. You know, if we're upset, we shouldn't show it. We don't cry, we don't get depressed. That's all rubbish. Of course we do. We're human beings. But it's not as simple as changing that overnight. And it's a mindset that's, you know, been wired into men over decades. You know, if we've been some of the guys in our meetups in our 20s and 30s for 20, 30 years, we've been thinking, oh no, we shouldn't talk about it. We should hide our feelings. We shouldn't talk about grief. It doesn't change overnight. It's not as simple as that. So that's why there's such a stigma. It's taking that first step is the hardest. And actually trying to open the door for that conversation. It's not as simple as just talk about it once and that's it. You've broken through a glass ceiling and now it's easy. It's not as simple as that. It's an ever changing battle. If it gets easier over time, in my own experience, I've done it a few times now, so it gets easier. It's more natural too, but it wasn't always that way. And the stigma hasn't been broken. I think it's too simplistic to say I've broken a stigma, I'm talking about it, now it's easy. It's not. Every time I go to open my mouth, it's a constant battle against my own insecurities. Should I say something? Should I keep my mouth shut? What are people going to think? So that's why it's so hard. And I completely understand why men do struggle in general to talk about it. And I think it's changing. It's getting better. I don't expect it to change overnight. When I first started being open and trying to get the message out there, I had a very naive mindset that I could level the playing field and get guys talking on the same level as women and have it like 50-50 balance, but it's just not as simple as that. It's not realistic. But I think the important thing for now, all we can do is give men a space and a platform to do so. If you're ready to talk about it, it's there for you if you want it. And just spread the message that support is out there. We're here. And whenever you're ready, it's there for you. So that's kind of where I see us going with men and talking about grief, is just give them a platform, let them know it's there. That's the most important thing. When they're ready, we can start talking.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Callum?
Yeah, if I so when I first heard about Let's Talk About Loss, I was so unbelievably shocked that this was a thing. I was like, you either get counselling or you do nothing. I couldn't believe that people clubbed together and was like, this is what we need to do. And I thought it was brilliant. So when I went along to the first meetup, I was even more shocked that every girl I was the only guy that was there at the first meetup, that every girl that was there had looked for something like this, had looked for like peer support and like kind of, you know, groups for talking and stuff like that. And I went home and I was so like, what? This is alien to me. And I asked all my friends, like, do you know that these kind of things exist? Like, would you, if anything happened to you, like, you know, if you were having like mental health difficulties or someone in your family was ill, would you know that to even think about going looking for this kind of stuff? And everyone was like, no idea. So one of my main goals for like my time at Let's Talk About Loss is I want to like try and engage people from my university. So I'm an engineer, and you know, predominantly male subject, but I know that within the university there's going to have to be people who are grieving, and you know, there's still very few men at our meetups. So I just kind of want to get, you know, the message out that we exist, and that, you know, it's not just going to be all girls there. I'm going to be there.
And how have you found that? Are you slowly starting to see more men getting involved?
We have had a few men turn up. We've not got really any recurring members that are males, but there have been people coming.
I guess it's just a conversation that, you know, we all need to keep going with, isn't it? And like you said, Liam, you know, you just need to keep going, keep letting men know that these groups are available, that it is okay to share your feelings. It is okay to talk about, you know, grief, because, you know, even on social media, I find that there aren't many men talking about this subject, you know, and if I'm honest, a lot of the guests that I have on my podcast are predominantly female. And I'm sure we're working towards that, but you're right, there's still that stigma that we need to kind of break through. Just moving on to the pandemic, I'm just wondering how you both have found your grief through this time, and if it's kind of resurfaced or affected you, you know, over the last sort of 6 months. And that's to you, Callum.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's resurfaced in kind of a weird way. I wouldn't really have expected it to happen, but like not being able to see my family has made me miss them, and then also miss my mum a lot more. But like, you know, usually I get to go and visit my dad and my brother and his 2 wee boys, and it just kind of like, you know, it feels like she's part of it, and like we're all a family together, that kind of stuff. I know I'm worrying more about how my dad's getting on by himself in the house, you know, not getting to see his grandkids or his kids. So like that's the kind of way it's resurfaced, like kind of, you know, worrying a bit more about the people around me, and, you know, missing her a little bit more, but not necessarily in like a sad way, but you know, just kind of, you know, wishing she was about for a bit of advice every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. How about you, Liam?
Yeah, it can be a very lonely place, grief. More so when you're stuck on your own with nobody around you to talk to, especially during lockdown like we had. I don't think there was a very real cloud of grief over the country. It hasn't really gone away yet. So it's certainly amplified any feelings that we might have had. I think before lockdown, you know, we had our lives with work, we did, you know, things outside. We were always distracted. Our brains are going all the time. It would take us away sometimes from our grief. If that's a good thing or not, I don't know. But it would help sometimes. But when you're in lockdown, there's nothing there. You're on your own with your thoughts and your grief and all this other stuff going on around you, which wasn't always a good thing. But at the same time, it would give myself, in my own experience, a chance to actually process where I was at in my head, what was going on in my life, how I was feeling, what I might have needed to do to actually get kind of, you know, keep moving through the process and help myself feel better. Especially as I wasn't going to work, I wasn't going to gym, I wasn't seeing friends other than on Zoom. So there was nothing to take me away from that and block it out, as it were. So being able to actually just switch off for months at a time and do very little actually helped me in some way, because I could process what was going on. I knew where I was at in my head. I knew what I needed support-wise, who to reach out to, which I might not have done if I was busy, like we all are, pre-COVID, etc. Good and bad, really.
Have you both had any sort of techniques, useful techniques that, like you say, you know, exercise is a big thing, but when you can't go to the gym, it's tough, isn't it? And, you know, I realised that too. And I was just wondering if you guys had any useful techniques. To anyone grieving at the moment, because like you said, we're still going through this. Yeah, that's to you, Callum.
So what I do, I know this isn't really going to be good for everyone, is like I like to do something in my mum's name. So at school, like I wrote essays about her diagnosis, and then like starting this, you know, I kind of feel like it's in my mum's name, and obviously I wouldn't be involved if things had panned differently. So that makes me feel like connected to her, and like, you know, there is positives coming from a negative situation. So, but in terms of like other things, I don't really know. Like I just go to the gym really and talk to my pals.
But talking to your pals, I mean, I've found as well, you know, what with FaceTime, I'm speaking to my mum more than I ever have done, you know, much to her delight. But, you know, just little things that you've kind of reconnecting has been a great help for me. I don't know how you, like you say, you've spoken to your friends more, maybe.
Yeah. So we would like meet like every Saturday at the start on Zoom and have a drink together and just chat about stuff. That's kind of fallen away a bit now, but we're also like getting the chance to see each other in real life a little bit more. But yeah, like having good friends around you and like, you know, breaking down the stigma with them early. If they can work out from what you're saying, like, you know, how happy or sad you are, they're not going to be as awkward as you about you bringing it up at like random times.
Yeah.
Did you find you could talk to your friends much, Callum, then, about sort of, was it just general friend chit chat, or was it more?
So when it was all happening, we were all 16, so really really bad at talking to each other about our feelings. So at the time, no, not really, and like everyone would kind of tiptoe around me a wee bit, and then people would come up to me at a party and be like, "So how are you actually doing?" And I'm like, "This is not the time." But as we've got older, like, you know, people ask me about her now, which is really nice. Like my close friends, and like I have the opportunity to talk about her without it being weird for them, because they kind of like understand now that, you know, I'm not just sad about it. There is other things, like, you know, and we can just like have a laugh about it now, or not about that, but like have a have a laugh about like the stuff she used to do and things like that.
Was it up to you to start that conversation sort of years ago, or did they
Yeah, definitely.
organically, or was it down to you?
It definitely was down to me. I would just like speak about it more and more, in different ways, and then people got more used to it. I think if I was still really not very open about it, it would still be really awkward anytime it was brought up.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of the time people think you don't want to talk about them, you know, and it's how
Yeah.
you approach that difficult subject, and they don't want to sort of upset you and all that stuff. But more often not, we want to talk about them, don't we? We want to sort of remember them, obviously, like you say, in the right setting.
Yeah.
Not at a friend's party, but yeah. I was just wondering whether you could both just give us a bit of a brief in terms of, let's talk about loss, and where can people find you? How can they reach out? And maybe, I know we touched on it earlier a little bit, to what they can expect, because a lot of people might watch this and go, oh, I'm a bit apprehensive about coming to one of these groups. But if you were to sort of, you know, invite them in, what would you say? And that's, sorry, to you, Liam.
Yeah, so at the moment, it's different to how it has been and how it will be at some point in the future, hopefully not too far away. It's more, I guess it's more structured now because we're doing Zoom calls, we are doing physical meetups, but obviously we're limited to what we can actually do. So normally we would have a group of any size, we'd get together, we'd do an activity, it'd be very informal, very casual, we'd hang out, chat about anything, grief sometimes, and just kind of make friends, have a distraction. Whereas now, obviously, it's more structured. You've got Zoom calls, you're all sitting on the same call, having the same chat, having the same conversation. You can't break off into subgroups, which you would normally do. And obviously, in physical meetups, you've got 6 people max. And again, there's not a lot we can really do with those groups. So it is more structured. But at the same time, we try to keep it as informal as possible. The last thing we want is for people to feel pressure and feel like they have to, if they're going to join our group, they have to talk, they have to open up, they have to kind of participate. It's completely normal and acceptable just to sit and listen. They don't have to give us their life story or open up into things they're not quite ready to talk about. It can be whatever that they want it to be, really, as a group. So that's what to expect. In terms of reaching us, we've got quite a big presence on Instagram. It's at Talk About Loss, and also we've got our Facebook groups as well. One for each city. There's about 24 cities now, 25 cities, which is crazy because when I joined last April, there was 3. So it's grown so much. It's amazing. So we can be quite easily found on social media. We've got our website as well, which is let's talk about loss.org. And you can find sort of email addresses for each city on the website, so you can contact the hosts individually, ask questions, and sort of find out about the next meetup or see what we're all about, really. So in terms of what to expect, don't expect anything. It can be whatever you want it to be. It's very casual, very informal, but it's a really amazing thing that certainly changed my life, and I hope others as well.
How about you, Callum? I take it they're all the same, but have you found that particular things have worked well in your groups, and obviously before lockdown?
Yeah, so we're just starting out. We're much younger than the London group. So we had one physical meetup in February, and then it's all been online since then. So we've been like trying to find our feet with what to do and things. So generally we just like, do like a short activity. Like we had a bingo night. We've like done quizzes. We've like, what else have we done? I can't remember. Anyway, sometimes we just have a chat. But like as Liam said, like the website is really good. There's like biographies or bios of each of the hosts and in the different locations, and like you can really easily find one that's closest to you. And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram as well. We generally do most of our stuff on Facebook for the Glasgow one.
Callum and Liam, I just want to say a big thank you for coming on today. It's been amazing hearing about Let's Talk About Loss. And I know there's lots of young people across the country who are struggling at the moment, and they might not know where to put their grief or what's out there. So I think that's why this conversation is so amazing for not only young people bereaved, but also for male people out there who are also struggling. And I think that's why it's so important to have this conversation with you both. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for having us
on. It's a conversation has to be had. So thank you for giving us a chance to have it.
Thanks, guys.